When you dare to share, you break the silence. When you dare to share, you speak your truth. When you dare to share, you use the full strength of your voice. When you dare to share, it brings opportunity to own your story. So tell it, be heard, and at the same time, your sharing is someone else's learning, inspiration, motivation, empowerment, and hope. There's always an element to each of our stories that remains a secret. For some, we feel it's a dirty little secret. Dare to share your untold story exposes these secrets in a welcoming and positive way. I encourage each of you out there to dare yourself to share what is yours to tell. When we dare, it is the courage to do something really important. Let this be a vow to each and every single one of us that we take risk, we brave, confront, and face what is, while inspiring and empowering all communities. So let's break that silence and tap into mental beauty. This is Salima Jadavji, your podcast host, a practicing social worker, and your mental wellness connoisseur. Welcome to the Dare to Share Your Untold Story podcast, episode number 66. She took hold of her story, named it, and reframed it with success written all over it. To all my fellow listeners, before we get started, I'm just dropping in a note to give you a heads up that this podcast might be emotionally triggering for you. We do invite guests onto the show who share openly about extremely difficult life moments with exposure and impact of what the struggles have been like. The intensity of each episode could have a variable impact on your emotional and mental well-being based on your own personal story. If at any point the topic becomes uncomfortable or upsetting to you in any way, please do not pressure yourself to listen. Instead, be kind to yourself, do some self-care, and perhaps give another episode a try. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing our courageous and daring guest, Melane Mullings. Melane is a cancer survivor, former registered nurse, successful entrepreneur, business management consultant, and the founder of Aya Management Consulting. She is also an award-winning #1 best-selling author of the book Lemonade: Squeeze Your Challenging Life Experiences into a Successful Business, and is passionate about helping struggling entrepreneurs and business owners build a solid foundation for their businesses and providing them tools and tips to transition to a state of sustained profitability so they can earn more, work less, and enjoy a truly fulfilling life. Melane enjoys traveling, playing her cello, volunteering, and spending time in the outdoors. She currently resides in Vancouver, Canada. Well, hello, Melane. Welcome to the Dare to Share Your Untold Story podcast.
Hello, Salima. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, Melane, I'm extremely excited to have this opportunity to have you be a guest on the show today. And I'm even more grateful for your willingness to really be here and tell your story. I really feel it's important to mention how blessed and honored I feel when, I get to encounter guests who allow me to come on the show and allow me to tap into their vulnerabilities and draw on their strength and their insight and their inspiration. It's just a really great space for me to have to be a witness of these, tellings. So it's important we take a stance together and help break barriers of mental stigma. So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And it is a blessing and honor of mine to share my story and really empower and encourage and inspire your audience.
So Melane, in case you're still wondering, this podcast is all about bringing forward untold stories that people go through, whether it's directly about a mental health struggle or something else. What we know is no matter what the story is, there is impact on one's own mental health in some way, which remains tucked away. This platform is here really to serve in a way to break barriers of mental stigma that have been conditioned in our society. So my hopeful mission is for both of us to encourage people to share and tell what individuals typically have reservations to express. I continue to bring forward a trend. It's called the mental beauty rethink. As the inquisitive person that I am, please tell me what comes to mind first when you hear this phrase, the mental beauty rethink.
I think it is such a beautiful concept, Salima. you are
Mhm.
absolutely changing the framework of our thought process behind mental health, just listing it
Mhm.
and thinking of it as mental beauty. There's so many
Mhm.
negative connotations out there to mental health. And so I
Mhm.
am a full and firm believer in redefining our mentality around different
Mhm.
concepts. And something
Mhm.
as important as mental health, we definitely need to shift our approach and our thinking and our perspective.
Mhm.
And words have so much power, right? And
Mm, they
so,
do.
looking at it as mental beauty, we're all beautiful mentally, emotionally,
Mhm.
spiritually, and
Mhm.
just to allow ourselves to fall into that understanding of my mental health is important, and it's looking at it from a perspective and a lens of beauty. I think is powerful.
Thank you. That is I really love your take on it. And it's I think the reason for me that I sort of that it came up with it is that there's so much that we can, talk to others about our physical health, but I often find when the conversation ever turns to mental health, the temperature of the room changes. People cringe or they get quiet or eye contact doesn't seem to be as strong. And so I feel like it's really important that we take time to maybe look at it from a different lens.
Right.
And so that's kind of where it came from. And I with the specific word beauty, it's like beauty is subjective,
Right.
what you think about the word beauty and what is beautiful to you, even if it's something as materialistic as someone's outfit or your own clothes. Like, you're going to choose things that you feel are beautiful, that you enjoy.
Right.
I think when we start looking at see, even when you say the word mental health or mental wellness, there's, as you said, those connotations that are attached to it, these negative
Mhm.
connotations. The idea of mental beauty, just, I guess, the invitation of acceptance.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Melane, I'm ready to dive in and see where this conversation takes us. How about you?
I am ready.
Amazing. Let's do it. So, that first question, give us the newspaper headline of how you would title your untold story. How would it read?
Ooh, I would give it Success Leaves Scars, but there is healing and hope.
Can you say that again?
Sure. Success leaves scars,
Mm-hmm.
but there is healing and hope.
Okay. Now, without giving away your untold story, can you expand on this title a little bit? It's very thought provoking.
And it's very loaded.
Yeah.
So I will do my best to keep it as
Probably why it's so thought provoking.
So success leaves scars. I guess the Coles Notes version of that would be the idea that many of us have, that once you become successful, it's just an upwardly linear, beautiful life going forward, right? And
Mhm.
you accomplish your goals and you get to where you've dreamed of, etc. But it's important for us to look back at the journey that brought you to that place of accomplishment. And there are scars that were endured, there were wounds endured along the way. Success leaves scars, meaning that there are, um, again, just wounds endured that need to be healed. And there's hope and there is healing when we take that time to acknowledge the journey,
Mhm.
the process
Mhm.
of accomplishment.
I love it. I always talk a lot about the importance of not so much outcome but process,
Yes.
and how the process is so important to witness.
hmm
And outcome, you'll get there regardless. But if you can pay attention to your process and witness your own process, there's so much more to be attuned with, right?
And celebrate the process,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Because no
there's so many
matter,
things to celebrate.
absolutely, absolutely, no matter what we are enduring on our journey of life, there's always something in that stage that we're at to be thankful for.
Absolutely.
So to look for it.
Absolutely.
hmm
And so to be able to have that gratitude along the way,
Yes,
not miss out on the gratitude, and there's gratitude in sometimes the sour, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Hmm. I can't wait. You got to tell us, what's your untold story all about?
My untold stories is
Yes.
exciting, and I think, and it's also empowering to share it
Hmm.
with
Hmm.
full authenticity and just
Hmm.
bear open. And so For
Mhm.
me, untold story, I was diagnosed with leukemia when I was 17.
Mhm.
And through that experience, I had a miraculous recovery, and that really solidified my relationship with God and my faith. And as
Okay.
a result of that experience, I became an RN many years later. And as you know, one of the reasons why I chose a career in nursing was because of the incredibly substandard emotional care I received while I was hospitalized. And I didn't
Mm.
understand what that was about.
Mhm.
But becoming an RN myself, I realized that the care that you can provide for patients, Salima, is very
Mhm.
different from the care that a nurse can provide when they have 11. Right.
Right.
And so when I became a nurse, I that was the reason, because I wanted to ensure that no other patient endured what I did. And
Right.
when I became an RN, I realized it wasn't that I had terrible nurses, it was the system that created that type of delivery of care.
Mm.
So
Not the person, but the system.
not the person, but the system. And
Mhm.
so at once I came to that realization, Salima, I was never the same. I was never at peace as an RN. And so
Mm.
I, through a confluence of different circumstances and different conversations I was having with people, I made the
Mhm.
decision to launch out and start a nursing recruitment firm. And I had
Wow.
been researching the nursing shortage independently for years on my days off, and,
Mhm.
just all of these different activities I'm engaging in to try to understand the problem, because I
Right.
knew how traumatic it was in my life.
Right.
I wanted to address it. And so, long story short, without one business course ever taken, no
Mhm.
experience in business or nothing, Slima, except
Mhm.
for my faith in God and belief in
Mhm.
one Bible
Mhm.
text. Whatever you ask for in prayer, believing you will receive. I launched out,
Mhm.
started the business, and it took 3.5 years to make my first dollar. And I sank into over $300,000 of debt in building my business. And so when I finally transitioned to a state of sustained profitability and success, I sold the business several years later successfully, and then turned around and wrote my award-winning #1 best-selling book about my journey. It's called Lemonade: Squeeze Your Challenging Life Experiences into a Successful Business, and started
Mhm.
my business management consulting company that I have now.
Amazing.
So my untold story is the journey to success
Mhm.
was very arduous, Salima, and I shouldered,
Mhm.
panic attacks, anxiety. I mean,
Mhm. Mhm.
can you imagine
Mhm.
$300,000 in debt, right?
That's a lot of debt. Yeah,
The
absolutely.
calls that are coming in, creditors
Mhm.
and this and that, and all day long,
Oh my
years,
goodness.
getting up every
Right.
day,
Mhm.
working 10, 11-hour days
Mhm.
for years. But I just, Salima, knew without a doubt, because I had a solid understanding of my purpose and direction
Mhm.
that God had led me, that it would be successful one day. And
Mhm.
that propelled me forward. But the anxiety and the bouts of depression and the panic attacks
Mhm.
left scars. And
Mm.
so, really and truly, one of the reasons why I really wanted to be a part of this podcast is to help individuals recognize that the journey to success, just because you have made it, it doesn't
Mhm.
mean you just move forward and skip off into the sunset. It's so important to turn back and deal with those
Mhm.
scars, because they will visit you in the future. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
what
Mhm.
success you've arrived at or
Mhm.
living in, there's still impact of those scars that will bleed
Yeah, the
over
scars yeah,
relationships.
the scars need to be honored, right?
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
seen and brought illuminated, right? Like, brought into the light
Right.
and really examine them. It
Yes,
sounds like that's what you were doing.
yes, yes.
Mhm.
And there's a study that was done by the National Institute of Mental Health, and an
Mhm.
article by Forbes in 2020 that was eye-opening to me, that 72% of entrepreneurs, Salima, suffer from mental health conditions.
Right.
And many in silence. I didn't know when I was building my
Yeah.
business that other people were dealing with, panic attacks and anxiety, et cetera. I just thought I just suffered in
It was just
silence,
you.
right?
Did you think it was just you? Or did you
Surely. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm seeing my
yeah,
cohorts and my business associates and such just progressing forward. It's something, Salima, that as entrepreneurs we don't talk about because
right,
the propensity is to just put your head down and keep working, right? I got to
right.
get through this. I got to get through this meeting. I got to finish this proposal. I have to, right? You just put your head down and push forward.
Well,
So,
yeah, because as an entrepreneur, it's like, well, if I don't do this, I don't get paid. If I don't make this
right.
presentation, then I lose out on an opportunity. And if I don't get this timeline done, then there's a ripple effect here and there. So you're, I'm assuming your mind was going to all of those places.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And,
And,
you know,
mhm,
the beautiful aspect of my role now as a business management consultant is and I can come alongside my
mhm,
clients and listen to
mhm,
them as they talk about their challenges and provide them tools and tips to be able to navigate them effectively, but
right.
also illuminate the fact that you have to own what you're feeling in that moment.
Mhm.
I'm
Yes,
feeling hurt. I'm feeling
yes,
stressed. I'm feeling
mhm,
anxious about this meeting. Okay, let me
yes.
sit in that. Let me
Own it and name it, right?
exactly.
Like you have to say, these are the feelings I'm experiencing.
Yes,
Once you name it, there is a therapeutic effect that it has on you.
absolutely. And
Mhm,
it's so
mhm.
encouraging for me to watch my clients go through that and watch the healing once they
The
begin.
transformation, right? You see the
Yes.
shifts.
Oh,
You see the shifts and you see the growth, and it's like, ooh, like it's you'd probably become a cheerleader, right?
it's such a powerful,
Oh,
they say that I'm helping them and I'm blessed to be in this capacity, but they are just blessing me to be able to
mhm,
watch them and
mhm,
just navigate through this because I didn't have that. Right?
mhm,
And I
mhm,
understand the impact that it has when you don't, uh, really honor, as you say, honor those experiences and
mhm.
acknowledge them and
Yeah.
move through them effectively.
Mhm. So tell me more about this untold story. So you were talking about, your journey in terms of where you started, your role as an RN, where it brought you in your business. Yes, you had all these business pitfalls, but you came right through. You
Mhm.
honored your journey. And during your journey, I'm thinking that something that was really very important is your mental health
Yes.
and idea of silencing your mental health. What was that like? What was that experience like to silence it? And how did it show up? Tell me more about that.
It was incredibly debilitating. And interestingly
Hmm.
enough, it did not actually fully come to light, Salima, until I started writing my book. So I was
Oh,
so
the
stuck.
Pandora's box,
Yes.
opening Pandora's box, right?
Yes, absolutely. And so I was so stuck in that cycle of accomplishment, 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 right? And
Hmm.
so, I write about in chapter 17 of my book, celebrate,
Hmm.
celebrate your successes. I did not do that, Salima.
Hmm.
At one point, it's a funny story. Years in, many, many years in, I was cleaning out my wallet and I had written on the back of my business card my breakthrough goal very early in my entrepreneurial journey for my first business.
Hmm.
And I said to myself that this goal represents, what I felt at the time of me making it. Right? So
Hmm.
if I when
Hmm.
I know I've made it, when I've
Right.
achieved this goal, put it in my wallet.
Okay.
Several years into the business, Salima, I was just cleaning out my
Hmm.
wallet, pulled it out, and I just fell down in amazement and shock. I had actually
Mm.
accomplished that goal 3 years prior,
Mm. Wow.
and I did not even acknowledge it. Right? I was just
Hmm.
pressing, pressing, pressing forward to the next goal, the next goal, the next goal. It was always my desire from the beginning of building my business to sell it one day. And I wanted to do that at
Hmm.
year 5. So to
Hmm.
me, I did not acknowledge really any level of success other than that.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
I hadn't achieved that yet, so it's not success, right? It's just this
Hmm.
mentality that I had of just the next, the next, the next, accomplish, accomplish, accomplish. And so I learned that day the power of celebrating yourself, celebrating the little thing.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I made it through this week. I accomplished the goals I set out to this
Mhm.
week. You know, I deserve to take myself out to dinner, right?
Yeah.
Or just recognize the power inherent in the small successes along the way. But I was stuck in panic because this wasn't finished yet, or, you know, getting depressed because this, you know, contract is taking too long to come to fruition, or et cetera, right? And so it wasn't until after selling the business, sitting down to write the book and looking, you know, at the entire journey, front to back, 17 chapters of the process and the strategies that I implemented to create a successful business and how others could too. But reading back of all those experiences triggered the
Mhm.
trauma.
Right.
And so for me, that was where I leaned into the healing and recognizing that the scars from those experiences had impacted me, and really allowing
Mhm.
myself to acknowledge them and
Mhm.
really move into the direction of healing from them, and then sharing
Mhm.
my experiences going forward so that others don't have to navigate through the same type of pitfalls.
Okay, so Melane, before we, talk more about some of the lessons and insights and how you've been able to curate really great, powerful tools for your clients and help them along their success, I want to kind of just go back a couple of moments where we were talking about, or not we, you were talking about, just how the celebrating, right? And not being
Right.
able to celebrate your successes because in your mind success was selling the business, there was nothing in between. I'm curious if there was a part of your mindset that was punishing yourself unless you
Mhm.
met certain completed certain tasks, or based on what you assumed, what your perception of accomplishment was.
Great question, Salima. Because I had sacrificed so much, I had given up a career in nursing. I mean, one thing I should back up and give you some greater context is a couple of months after I incorporated my first business and took this leap of faith, I got into a car accident. I
Oh my
was
goodness.
T-boned, and the injuries to my neck and back, um, you know, precluded me to work. I was no longer able to work as an RN, a floor RN, and so I lost my ability to gain income while I was building the business. And you know, I look back at it now. We talk about reframing and perspective. I see it now that that car accident and the injuries that I sustained that, you know, took me away from the career of nursing actually was a gift because it
It was
gave
your
me the
blessing.
time to build the business, right?
Right.
I like to say that, you know, if I hadn't, you know, met into that
Mhm.
car accident, I might have been working as an RN while building that business the entire time. I don't know if I would have had the courage to fully let go into
Right.
this journey of entrepreneurship. And so I had given up so much, right? And it was almost as though I had to prove that, okay, you know, I gotta make it, right? Because, you know, I kept hearing, I was in physio for almost 4 years recovering, but, you know, I kept hearing from people around me, oh, you can do something else and you can work in another capacity. You can, you know, be an assistant manager. I was actually offered an option to become an assistant manager of the unit that I was on when I got into the car accident. And so I made the decision to say no. I'm going to press forward in this. And so I think just having that weight of responsibility to make this work. And I just felt that God was leading me into this. And so, in some strange way, I felt it was His responsibility to take care of me. You brought me to this, God, right? So, this has to work, right? This is about more than just me. This is about my story. This is about my impact. And interestingly enough, before I even started the business, I always had a plan to write a book that I would turn back and tell others. I knew Salima from the very beginning, I have to be honest, I knew I was going to be successful. I just knew it under God that if he was leading me to this, he would bring me through it. And
Mhm.
so I had, you know, said to myself from the very beginning that when you bless me, God, I want to turn back and encourage others with the journey. Now, when I said that, I had no idea, Salima, that it was going to take all
Mhm.
this, right?
Mhm.
But I was writing my book, Lemonade, really,
Mhm.
from the very
Right.
beginning. And so the book is really snapshots of the successes and my understanding of what I was implementing, the strategies that I was implementing that were creating the success. And so even though I was writing it as I was building the business, I wasn't celebrating the journey. I wasn't
Right.
owning the stress because I just
Mhm.
felt responsible to make this work. I didn't feel like I had time to lean
Right.
into, okay, how am I feeling right? I just didn't give myself permission to feel
Mhm. Mhm.
because I just felt what I did feel was responsibility to make this work. And I think really allowing and giving my clients now and my readers permission to, if you are moving in the direction of your purpose, which I talk about a lot in the book, is how to find your purpose and create a successful business from it. If you have that understanding that the direction that you're leading is your personal purpose, there is success there. There is success there. This is what you were created for. This is what you were. All of your challenging life experiences have brought you to this point. There is success in that space. And so lean into that. Have faith in that. Walk through your journey from a position of, I will make it. And so I can gift myself with the time to work through what I'm feeling. I can gift myself with permission to take time off and enjoy the journey. I can gift myself with that because I am walking in the direction of my purpose. And for me, I have lived the truth that when you know what your purpose is, like you have 10 fingers and 10 toes, Leva, and you have done your part and you're, giving your best, etc., applying sound principles, biblical principles even. I'm a passionate Christian. So I believe in, faith and giving back and sacrifice, etc. So if you're walking in sound principles and building a solid foundation for your business, it will invariably be successful. I stand by that. I stand, and there's so many examples of that. Um, Businesses out there that have really strong leaders at the helm that apply sound, business principles to their business and operate from a perspective of purpose and passion. You can see that. There's a bakery in my hometown where you just bite into their cupcakes. And I mean, the owners are multimillionaires. You bite into their cupcake, you could just taste the passion. You
Mm.
can taste the passion
Wow.
they have for their craft and the way they operate their
Wow.
business.
Right.
It just emulates. And that's why they're successful. Period. I mean, it's a powerful concept. And I learned that the hard way.
Mhm.
And now I share these 17 principles that I learned along the journey in my book to others so they can apply them and really live a truly fulfilling life. Business
Mhm.
is more than just profits, it's
Right.
process and its
Yes.
impact
Right.
and its purpose.
Mhm.
Can be anyway.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So, yes, the success leaves scars, right? And just really honoring those wounding experiences and allowing ourselves to work through them. Don't ignore them. The experiences that left you feeling depressed or left you in a state of panic or anxiety. Um, you know, Acknowledging them. It's a part of the journey. Don't be surprised, 72% of us, suffer. And that's those that self-report, by the way. So I venture to say that that's probably likely higher, right?
Well, yeah, self-reporting is just part of a number,
Right.
part of a bigger number, right? So, absolutely. So 72% or more. Right.
Exactly. We're not alone. I think that's the challenge with mental health and really and the beauty of your podcast, Lima, is really shedding light and having that willingness to heal. Dare to tell your untold story, dare to heal, dare to look at mental health as mental beauty. It's honestly, I'm the type of person, I really love, when one has on their face, beauty marks or whatever. I think it creates character on the face,
Yes,
right?
it's individuality.
Yeah, I'm strange. I like imperfect teeth a little bit, or just
Mm. Oh,
character.
there's beauty in imperfection. And
Yes,
also, it's the idea about educating people that mental health doesn't mean that you need to be institutionalized
absolutely.
or that you
Yeah,
have to have a diagnosis or, oh, that means like I'm a crazy person, right? We
right.
hear these terms and these reactions so often. And so often that and then the things I hear from people, it's like there's so much to, I feel like they're outdated thought processes and it's all been
Mhm.
conditioned. So we've got to
Right.
do this education and educate people because one of the things I have mentioned from time to time is that everyone has a story. And
Yes.
even if there's no direct impact to their mental health, like maybe someone went through like a divorce or immigrated to the country. So maybe they
Mhm.
don't have a mental health illness, but and maybe they are feeling comfortable to share their story after the fact or maybe during that process. But oftentimes the part that doesn't get told is how their mental well-being was affected
Yeah,
during that time and
absolutely.
the pain points.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I often find that there's because we're not used to talking about it. We want to be accepted. We've already been going through something difficult. So we don't want to
Mhm.
add more. We don't want to shed light in a way that is something to do with the dark side? So it's like, oh, don't want to go there. And if a person did struggle with mental health or mental wellness in some capacity, then there's multiple parts of their story that doesn't
Right.
get told.
Right.
So the idea is just to be able to encourage people to own what is theirs and
Yeah.
share. And I
Yes.
often find that by sharing, it is a very liberating experience
Absolutely. Yes.
and one that actually inspires other people
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
tap into their own journey.
Absolutely. And as I look at it, Salima, the greatest aspect of success is impact and its legacy, right? I like to think of, you know, this concept of living your life, writing your obituary,
Mm,
and allowing ourselves, what do we want to be said at the end, right? If
right,
success is just for the sake of, material accoutrements and this and that, that's hollow, it's empty.
right,
But what are we leaving behind? Is the world different because my business existed or I existed? That's the
right.
question. And I think that, surviving leukemia really
Hmm.
left me at a place where I look at life differently. And to me,
Sure.
it is about impact. I think the greatest aspects of life are to love and be loved, God and others, or
Yes.
your higher power
Right.
and others,
Mm-hmm.
and to live the fullness of your life's purpose. When you can lay your head down at the end of your journey and take that last breath, when you can, and I've seen this even in my patients as an RN,
Mm-hmm.
those that lived a full life,
Yeah.
right, and have relationships and family around them, etc., it is a very different end to their journey than those that didn't, right,
Yeah.
quite frankly, right? And
Yeah.
so, that's where peace is, that's where legacy is, that's where impact is, when
Mm-hmm.
we own our story and live the fullness of our life's purpose and love
Mm-hmm.
and be loved, allow ourselves to be
Yeah.
loved. And when it comes to, mental beauty, as you say,
Mm-hmm.
loving ourselves, love yourself enough to
Mm-hmm.
gift yourself with healing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like you say, there's so much power in just being authentic and just
Yes.
sharing, because I mean, at the end of the day, we're not alone. So there's other people that are also struggling, and they can learn
Exactly.
from our story
Oh,
and be
yeah.
able to live a more full life as a result of it.
So, Melane, let me ask you,
Mhm.
when people come to see me for therapy, individuals are typically in one of three places. Some
Mhm.
people are getting started, um, some people are in the middle, some people are looking back. When I say they're getting started, I mean, like, sometimes they know they have a whole bunch of things they want to work on, and they're
Right.
like, okay, I'm here, I'm ready to unpack, so
Right.
they need a starting point. Some people are in the middle, meaning that they're navigating maybe a particular acute scenario, or there's like something that they're in the middle of a mess, and they need someone to help guide them. And
Right.
some people are looking back, meaning like maybe they're trying to get some closure on something, or they want to take the next chapter in their life, so they know that there's some unfinished business to address. But typically it's in one of these three places that
Mhm.
they're in. So what part of the journey would you say that you're in? Are you getting started, in the middle, or looking back?
So I would say I'm looking back and in the middle because I believe that we're constantly on a journey of life. And just because you reach a level of success or you've accomplished your goals and even beyond, life happens. Right. And so there's, new challenges and new, as I call
Sure.
my book, life lemons, right, to
Right.
navigate. But
Mm-hmm.
having been blessed with the opportunity to have navigated through this process
Mm-hmm.
of, you know, healing, and I wouldn't even say I'm healed from panic attacks or anxiety, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
have better ways of navigating through it. And so, you know, when I say, still in it, I
Mm-hmm.
have life challenges now, right? That
Sure.
I'm still having to apply the
But you know
principles.
how to manage now, right? There's
Exactly,
okay.
exactly.
Now I know that you said, you're looking back and in the middle, because,
Mhm.
when you think about life, as we overcome certain things, new things come. But specifically to your untold story, where would you say you really are?
Oh, looking
Looking
back.
back? All
Yeah,
right.
and
Okay.
the book is my gift of that looking back, right? Of
Okay.
what the journey looked like
Okay.
and how I navigated through it.
And so, what would you want to remember about the process of your healing journey, given that you're looking back?
What would I want to remember? Oof,
Hmm.
that's a good one. Um, what I would want to remember and absolutely not forget is, how I just allowed myself to stay in that state of denial almost, right? And just acknowledge that I can't do that again, right?
Hmm.
And don't just put your head down, keep pressing forward, whatever. I have that, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs have that propensity to just,
Hmm.
oh, got to get through it. I want to remember that
Hmm.
was a turning point when I, allowed myself to stay in that space, and that's where the
Hmm.
wounding happened, right?
Hmm.
You're feeling anxious. Okay, forget it.
Right.
I don't have time for that. I got to keep going. No,
Hmm.
I want
Hmm.
to always remember to own what I'm dealing with and sit in that space and acknowledge it and give
Hmm.
myself the gift of dealing with it. So if I were to say anything that I would want to remember is don't do that.
That's the no. Mm-mm, don't
That's
go
no,
there. That's
no.
not, yeah. So pulling yourself out of that. I'm really curious. I know we've been talking a little bit about your mental health and how it's been impacted, but I really want to know a little bit more about how it was affected. You mentioned these panic
Mhm.
attacks, right? So can you say a little bit more about the panic attacks? I think you even mentioned a little bit about anxiety and being able to
Mhm.
learning the process of identifying it, and even having some bouts of depression. Can you speak a little bit more to like what that looked like to you, or
Mhm.
how it showed up in your life, how you knew
Mhm.
you were experiencing that?
Well, as it relates to the panic attacks, I would have difficulty breathing. I would definitely
Mm-hmm.
feel it in my body. And now I have learned the power of, acknowledging where it's happening in my body and
Mm-hmm.
then touching that place and
Mm-hmm.
honoring what it's saying to me. Right. And I've learned
Mm-hmm.
now that it's a part of that is your inner child. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
having to
Mm-hmm.
soothe that inner child and say, I'm safe. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay. Right. But
Mm-hmm.
really, the shortness of breath, the tightness, the inability to breathe,
Mm-hmm.
um, and just the spiral, in my mind, it's just going, going,
Mm-hmm.
going. I can't concentrate. I'm just,
Oh, the thought spirals,
all
right?
the thoughts and staying up in my
Mm-hmm.
head. And I'm very cerebral. So to me,
Mm-hmm.
it's already, I'm very analytical. So
Mm-hmm.
when the stress comes, it's up to 1,000,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so getting me to just sit and calm down. And so I'm thankful for my faith in God, because there's a Bible text that absolutely helps me. It's Philippians 4, 6, and 7. It says, "Be anxious for nothing, but in everything with prayer and supplication, make your requests be made known to God, and the peace that passes all understanding guards your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus." And so that actually goes back to what you were talking about in the beginning about being thankful.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
just sitting in that place when everything's spiraling. Okay, what's going right now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me just stop, right?
Yeah.
And really, allow myself to, spiritually to just be calmed by the presence of God and just be thankful. Yes, it's
Mm-hmm.
stressful right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in this moment, there are things to be thankful for. So, to get to your question, um, panic attacks, anxiety, even depression, just not being able to, just crying in bed, right? And
Right. Mm-hmm.
the mornings were so difficult, right? Just actually
Right.
getting started and, giving myself that permission to push forward, right? And
Mm-hmm.
just the heavy cloud and yeah.
So like
So
noticing that the motivation was lacking, that you didn't
yes.
have a desire to want to do things,
Yeah.
but it sounds like you were trying to find a way to do them, but it
Yes.
really impacted your ability to just go and do.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm thankful I didn't stay there for too long, and
Mhm.
100% that was my Christian faith that really was the propelling factor to push forward because I knew what my purpose was. So even though it's
Mhm.
not coming together now,
Mhm.
I know that God, you put me here, so you got to push me. I'm waiting on
Mhm.
you, right? And I'm
Right.
doing my best. And so,
Mhm.
but yeah, the lack of motivation, the cloud, the darkness of the thoughts and the fear,
Mhm.
gripping,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
paralyzing almost physically paralyzing. I'm getting on the phone and needing to call a client and just shaking with, I'm tired of hearing no, and
Right.
yeah, the trembling in your voice. And that is also, I learned, and I talk about this in chapter 15 of my book, the number one most important indicator for success in life and business, um, recognizing how I was showing up and how I was
Mhm.
communicating in meetings out of that position of fear was not positive, right?
Mhm.
You're getting
Mhm.
on the phone and you're already trembling and whatever. You're communicating that through the tone of your voice,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so it affected my speech. It affected, um, oh, so much. It affected the way I was communicating in emails and the way, I was communicating in relationships. And so,
Right.
um, in many, many, many ways, it had impact. And those were
Yeah.
the scars that I had to actually go back to and heal.
And what sort of emotions, like, I mean, you talk about being, that crippling fear the anxiety. And do you feel like there were other emotions that you were experiencing that you recall back then?
Fear, definitely. Disappointment within myself, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think, and you and I have talked about this, I am not so much of a individual that has negative self-talk, but I am one that I'm very hard on myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, accomplish and get this done and you can do it. And I know, I
Mm-hmm.
know, and even just from a spiritual perspective, I know that if God's with me, I can do this. One plus God, but when
Right.
you're in it and it's not happening yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, just feeling a sense of it's on me. Like I'm dropping the ball right somewhere because I know I'm able and I know this is in front of me, but just feeling that sense of responsibility and almost fear. Not almost, it is fear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, and so, yeah, I would say that fear, disappointment.
Do you feel
Um,
like you were taking on responsibility for things that weren't yours to be responsible for?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it's a process, as we talked about.
Right.
We're learning. We don't wake up and then the next day we have a PhD. You have to
Mhm.
go through grade 1,
Of
grade
course.
2, junior high, high school, right? And
Yep.
so that's the challenge is allowing ourselves to surrender to the process.
Mhm.
Right?
Okay.
I'm learning. I'm
Yeah.
not there yet, and it's okay. you
Mm-hmm.
know? And that was something that, as I said, I started out wanting to be successful in 5 years.
Right.
It took 13 before I sold the business, right?
Right.
I,
Yeah.
I mean, I transitioned to a state of sustained profitability long before that, but
Mm-hmm.
it was a process to get there. And
Yeah.
even when I got to that state of sustained profitability, I was still learning lessons, right? We're on a
Mm-hmm.
journey of becoming.
Right.
And that's what I needed to learn is just give yourself permission to go through the process.
Okay. So, Melane, what is your key message to the listeners of our show? What do you want them to know?
Oh, I want them to know, Salima, that they are not alone. They are not alone. There is hope. But that starts with telling yourself the truth. That's actually chapter 1 of my book. Tell yourself the truth quickly. What are you feeling right now? Gift yourself with the process of healing. Allow yourself to feel what you're feeling now, get the help that you need, and recognize that once you effectively address and acknowledge your mental beauty, not mental health, mental beauty, that will set you up to become who you were created and ordained and blessed to be. There is healing, there is hope, but that starts out with acknowledgement and just allow yourself to surrender to the process. And as I said, I firmly believe that the greatest gift we can give ourselves is, walking in the direction of our purpose and allowing ourselves to love and be loved. And that starts with loving ourselves, effectively loving ourselves so that we can give that gift of who we are into the world.
What, important messages,
Hmm.
very important messages for the listeners. That's
Yeah.
so beautiful. Okay. I'm curious. Tell
Mhm.
me, what is that game changer inspiration? What was game changing for you that's close to you that
Mhm.
reflects your untold story? So, what I mean by this is like, is there like a quote or a book or an
Mhm.
event or a person, something that speaks to you?
Well, I like to live by the saying that I have, which is go boldly, dare greatly, love passionately, and live intentionally. And I think that really encapsulates me and my platform and my message that I want to share
Mm-hmm.
is just be the best version of you and show up 100%. And a part of that, living in that way,
Mm-hmm.
is addressing your mental health.
Okay, so say these words again. I want people to hear it. You started with go boldly, dare
Yep.
greatly, and
Hmm.
then
Love passionately
love passionately.
and live intentionally.
This is beautiful. I hope everyone
Thank
writes this
you.
down. You definitely have a way with your words. So tell me, what's a cause or an organization that's been impactful to you on your journey that you want to give a shout out to? Anyone come to mind?
Oh, definitely. Thank you for asking. Wanting to give a shout out to Resolve Therapy and Consulting.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely an organization that supports entrepreneurs through their mental beauty
Mm-hmm.
journey and really, um, coming alongside them to help them navigate through
Mm-hmm.
the pitfalls and the challenges that entrepreneurs face. And the organization works with entrepreneurs at every stage,
Mm-hmm.
early stage entrepreneur journey, mid stage, and successful,
Mm-hmm.
to really help them move through this, process of healing the scars along the journey, your emotional scars and etc.
Beautiful.
Because as I said, that 72% stats of
Yeah.
entrepreneurs that suffer with it,
Mm-hmm.
just having a therapist that you can connect with
Mm-hmm.
that understands what that looks like is
Right.
is key. So yeah,
Oh,
shout out to
absolutely.
Resolve Therapy and Consulting.
Yeah. What a great resource. So, how can people connect with you if they would like to? What platforms are you on?
Your audience can find me on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook and Alignable,
And
and through my author website and my business website too. And I know that you have that information for your listeners.
yes, we have all of these details on the show notes page, so that's perfect. So, Melane, guess what?
What?
You've just dared yourself to share.
Yay!
Congratulations.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you so much, Salima.
Miss Melane, I gotta tell you, I just want to take a moment again to express my gratitude for the story that you've shared today. Finding your path to connect to your own mental beauty and learning about how anxiety has shown up in your life and trekking through your leukemia, the cancer journey, and finding your passion in the entrepreneur space and uncovering all the veiled facets of yourself has been just incredible for me to hear, and it has been nothing short of inspiring. I am truly grateful to have been able to hear and witness your story today. So thank you for the deep conversation and for all the daring and sharing. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. I am blessed. Absolutely.
It has been such a pleasure. Once again, Melane, thank you for being part of Dare to Share Your Untold Story and helping to be a voice in breaking down the barriers of mental stigma. To all of our listeners, if you like what you've been hearing on this podcast and you want to be part of breaking down barriers of mental stigma, I invite you to go wherever you are listening to the episode and hit subscribe. Leave us a comment or a review of the episode and maybe how you relate to it. To learn more about what we offer, visit www.daretoheal.co. And if you are feeling ready and brave to share, please submit your story by visiting www.daretoshare.co. Thanks for joining in.